day it is that you're listening to this. My name is Yvette Wanzu, and welcome back to the Walking with Wanzu podcast. How are you? How have you been? How has life been treating you? It's been kind? It's been good? If you're going through a hard time or a bit of a rough patch, I'm sending you lots of love and hugs. And I just want to tell you that tough times never last, but tough people do. And I know how cliche that sounds when you're really going through it, but when you look back and you just see how far you've come and how things eventually worked out in the end, you'll see that it really does make sense. You'll be fine. You'll be okay. Anywho, I know it's been a minute since my last episode. Life has been lifing. It's been doing what it does the most. Parental obligations, stuff like that. And speaking of parenting, guys, my little lady just graduated from kindergarten and I cannot keep calm. Honestly, on that day, I was just a ball of emotions. I was feeling every type of way. But one of the feelings that were predominant for me was gratitude. I am so grateful for that milestone, and I know it's an ending of a chapter which is preschool, but also it's a testament to really what God can do if you depend on Him, rely on Him, and just put your priorities in the right place and really fight for yourself. Man, you can do anything. And it was a beautiful day. My daughter was so excited. I was equally excited. We had a really good time. And it also marked the end of a school year. So now we're looking forward to her starting school as a big girl next year, joining grade 1. That was amazing. I can't believe it. I feel like this little lady was just born the other day. Now she's busy here going to Sijui grade 1. Anyway, so that happened. What else? Work has been good. Work has been busy. However, today is not a very busy day. So I was sitting there feeling a bit inspired, and I said, let me come and talk to my peeps. Let's talk. Let's catch up. Let's see what's been happening. Another thing that prompted this episode is because I really wanted to take part in the 16 days of activism, and that's usually a number of days that people take to be able to create awareness about gender-based violence. And that's something that is, I don't know about you, but being a Kenyan living in Kenya, Nairobi to be exact, which is the capital city of Kenya, if you're not affected, then you know one or two people who've been affected by gender-based violence. Be fortunate enough, which should actually even be the norm, of not having to go through that unfortunate experience yourself. However, I'm sure that in the community I live in, you know someone who knows someone, or you know someone personally who's been affected by gender-based violence. And I just thought that being a platform where I am committed to sharing stories truly and just raw as they come, it's very important for me, and it's a cause that's very close to my heart, to be able to create awareness about gender-based violence, be part of, not just point fingers and pass around the blame, but also to be part of coming up with solutions and trying to see that in the near future our children will also not be talking about the things that we're talking about now. Being a girl mom, I am deeply concerned and disturbed about what the future looks like, with her, living as I'm living now and feeling fearful about issues such as gender-based violence and the other things that people face really. The thing is, when we talk about it, I know that because women being, and I want to choose my words very carefully, because women are more vulnerable, let's say that, because I wouldn't want to say the weaker sex. Women being more vulnerable, you'll find that most cases of gender-based violence, women mostly tend to be the victims. And I say this very cautiously because I do realize that there are also men who have been victims of gender-based violence. However, maybe it's not a very common phenomenon, because most men choose to keep quiet about it, which is quite unfortunate as well, because everybody who's going through a hard time should be able to have access to be able to seek help, to be heard, and to receive the necessary help that they need. I have personally experienced gender-based violence at home. I have seen it in multiple instances. I have had family very close to me that have been victims of gender-based violence. I personally lost my maternal grandmother to gender-based violence. So it's something that I know a bit too well and that hits close to home. However, I also realize that there's a lot that needs to be done if we are going to move forward and create a safe space for ourselves and for our children and for the future coming generations, but also if we are going to find some form of healing, so that we move forward from a point of knowledge, but also from a point of healing and reconciliation. And there's so much that we can say about this. However, on today's episode, I just want to bring light to the fact that as a young woman, and now at my almost big age of 30, I don't know if come next year I'll be able to be qualified or privileged enough to say that I am a young woman. However, I just feel like generally we're not, as women, we don't feel safe, right? We have had this year, unfortunately, so many cases of femicide, so many cases of people, being sexually abused, and I mean those that we know of are so many. So I'm even thinking of those that don't come to light and that people don't share with us. Cases of people who have been victims of gender-based violence. We have young women who even live with their partners, or young women who've been in relationships or partnerships even with someone, it's like a relationship that could be a month old, a week old, and at the sight of any slight cause of disagreement, then there's violence that's there. And to some extent, because it's something that most of us, as I said earlier, have experienced or have seen or have known, we seem to slowly be accepting it as society, as the norm, when it's not normal, really. I don't think, especially as adults, when you come together as adults and you have certain feelings for each other and you decide to pursue a relationship that eventually leads to a partnership, I don't think violence is usually a very good way to go about conflict resolutions. But the fact that we've seen it happen around us so many times, it's kind of creating this thing in our heads where we feel like it's normal, right? And it's not. And I feel like that's something that should be called out often. That's something that should be frowned upon. And for those who are helpless or going through a situation where, because when you're in that moment, when you're the victim and you're in that moment and you're in the thick of it, most of the time you can't think clearly, but when there are people around you who can see what's going on, I would want us to be able to feel the need to want to reach out, first of all, to the victim, but also to want to stop it from going on. Because one of the things that really fuel gender-based violence, especially when it's a perpetrator, is when you feel as a perpetrator that there are no repercussions for your actions. There are no consequences. You won't get arrested, you won't be called out for what you're doing, no one will stop you. And so you feel almost like you're invincible and you can just do whatever you want and there are no consequences for your actions. And so we need to see more people take up space and say, when you see something wrong, when you do see gender-based violence in action, or even when you see it passively, when you know of someone or you don't even know someone, please always let's create a culture where we are quick to reach out, to help, to try and solve, to stop it. I remember of a friend who used to also be my former colleague, and she was talking to me about this one time she was coming to work, and there was two young people. I think it was a lady and who she presumed was her partner, and it's like they got into a bit of a heated argument. And so this guy, this young man, he proceeded to he was really slapping her around, right? And you could see she was screaming and she was asking for help and she was feeling so helpless. So every time she would try to escape, of course, he would grab her and pull her back. And can you believe this was actually happening outside and nobody would stop to help or do anything about it? Because also, again, in different cultures, I don't know which culture that you come from, but most of the time we've had this phrase thrown around where people say, and I'll say it in Kiswahili, watu wawili wenye wanajifunika blanketi moja kuingilia mambo yao si nzuri. And that could be translated to mean two people who sleep on the same bed and share a sheet and cover themselves together at night. You can never quite get in between them. So when there's conflict, sometimes you'd shy away from wanting to give solutions, simply because when people are involved in a lover's quarrel, sometimes they tend to come around and agree, and now you're left in the middle. So it can feel a bit awkward and uncomfortable. However, when it gets to issues where someone is being abused, I feel like that's something that requires intervention. You should be able to come in and offer advice, or just come in and offer a bit of resolution, just to be able to try and see if it's something that you can work out or something that you can try and solve. And so as we start this conversation, because this is a broad conversation, and it's not something that we can start now and finish, I just wanted to come in and just jolt us to be able to start it and talk about it. And over the next couple of days, I'll be able to share stories that I am comfortable sharing, because I'm very clear on where the boundary lies, and some stories are not mine to tell. However, those that I have permission and that I can tell and have been told openly, that have hit very close to home and even affected me personally, I will be sharing with you. 1, just to create awareness. 2, to get the conversation going, and 3, to see how we can come to some sort of resolve and start seeing us creating positive solutions so that 10, 3, 5 years from now, we'll be having a different conversation, and we can see that things are getting better as opposed to getting worse. To be honest, there's a lot going on. We just came out of a pandemic. The economy is just doing the most, and everyone is struggling. And when we are people in such a space, there's a lot of inbuilt frustration, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of anger, and sometimes we don't even know what to do with ourselves. Like, I've had instances where I've woken up in the morning and I'm just upset. I just woke up and I'm upset, and no one has done anything to me. So I think it's very important to note that people are really, like, times are changing so fast, and we're going through so much, even just as people living in the universe, in the world as a whole. And so the changes and everything that's going on can tend to make us feel, you don't deal with people. It's like when you're going through something, it's like you're not your usual self. So I can see how that can change how we relate or get along with one another. So let's get this conversation started. Let's talk. Do feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, Yvette Wanzu. Reach out to me via email, and let's connect and tell me what it is that you'd like for me to unpack as we discuss this heavy but necessary topic of gender-based violence, and as we mark 16 days of activism. I look forward to hearing from you and interacting with you. God bless you, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.